what you think you know about CrossFit, you don't know. Millions of people participate in CrossFit. I Googled it. It's like 0.01% of CrossFit participants are actually CrossFit Games level athletes. Don't look at that and get intimidated and be like, I could never do that. CrossFit meets you where you are. It's infinitely scalable. You can start anywhere. Just let go of whatever preconceived notions you've got and just give it a shot.
If there was one thing the world was asking for, it was for one more podcast about CrossFit. Well, here we are anyways. This is the Silverback Media Podcast, where we share the stories of the everyday CrossFitter, so that more people are encouraged and empowered to try it themselves. Here's your host and everyday CrossFitter, Marco Mejia.
What is happening, Silverback Media crew? Happy Friday. Welcome back to the Silverback Media Podcast. My name is Marco Mejia. I'm a CrossFit Level 2 trainer in Phoenix, Arizona, and I am honored and pleased to be your host here on the Silverback Media Podcast. If this is your first time tuning into the show, welcome. Glad you're here. If you're a returning guest, welcome back. Hoping to bring you another awesome story today. My guest on the show this week is Ryan Talley. Ryan is based in Las Vegas and trains out of CrossFit Apollo. And in his story, we talk through his background, his upbringing, playing sports, playing a wide variety of sports and activities, and then how once he got into the workforce after high school and went straight into work in construction, how he had some incidents later in life that led him to realize that he needed to put a greater focus on his health and his own fitness, including having his first kid. Which I think is a very common occurrence for those of you that are parents that are listening. Not to mention, this is a bit of a full circle moment. Ryan was one of the original listeners of the show, and we talk about a little bit how he found it at the start and actually at the end of the podcast, and how it's benefited him in his CrossFit journey over the last 6 months. Now, before we get to that conversation with Ryan, remember to do all the things for the robots, like, subscribe, follow on whatever platform you're on, Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, or you know what I'm going to ask you to do. Just do it on all three. Why not? Helps the show. Make sure you follow on Instagram at Silverback Media, and make sure to share this episode with a friend who can benefit from it. Now that we got that out of the way, that's 23 down, 10,000 to go, and let's go talk to Ryan. All right, Ryan, my man, pleasure to finally have you on the show. I know we've been working on this for a little bit. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. Pleasure to be here.
Good. I know this is kind of a little trippy for me, kind of cool. You were one of the early listeners to the show that we had never met before. I think you just kind of came across something on Instagram and started following along. So it's cool then to have had some back and forth and conversation with you on Instagram, just in the good old DMs, and now to have you on. This is a cool full circle moment, to say the least.
Yeah, I don't even remember how I stumbled upon you. I just might have been like your very first couple episodes, and I think it's always kind of neat when I listen to a lot of podcasts. So when you catch one in its infancy and kind of see it progress and grow and mature. So yeah, I've been listening. I think I probably heard every single episode.
Nice. All right. Yeah, you've gone through the dark days of me sounding like I'm in a submarine, and all the different audio versions. And I think that was our latest kind of trail of messages.
I think that's always the biggest improvement you see is the audio quality always improves. Like the curve in the beginning, like drastically, the audio gets better really quick.
Oh yeah. Oh man, it's crazy to listen back on some of it now, and I'm still rocking with like a $20 Amazon microphone. So I'm gonna roll with it for a little while.
Works.
Excuse me. All right, awesome. Well, let's get into your story. Talk about you, right? The man of the hour. So let's roll back the clock. Let's talk about your kind of a younger Ryan early on, childhood wise. Were you active? Were you playing sports? What were you getting into? Athletically, physically, activity wise, as a kid?
Yeah. So I'm 41. I played baseball since I was 5. My dad got me into baseball right away. I played all the way up through high school until I aged out of the my little league in my small hometown. So played baseball every year. I was a pitcher. I was a first baseman, kind of a well-rounded utility player. Played football in junior high and high school. Did some wrestling in high school. Played soccer all through grade school. So every season I was involved in some kind of sport. Nice. In addition to that, I was, I grew up in the desert in Arizona before phones and tablets. So sun up to sundown, we were on our bikes out in the washes, building forts, miles across town, just out riding all day. as I
in
got
trouble,
older,
causing mayhem across the valley.
but there were no worries. It's like we could be
Yeah.
gone all day, and your parents you were fine. And then I guess as I got older, skateboarding became, kind of more on my radar, skateboarding and bikes and, even rollerblading. So there was always some kind of a sport, whether it was like a team sport or one of the more, rebellious sports.
More of the extreme
Yeah.
sports, I guess, if you want to call it that, right? That's the term now. As a part of that, were you, also working out to support those sports, or because it seemed like you were, probably one season at a time, bouncing from one sport to the next. Which at that age, I don't know, were you like, all right, I'm just going to do that, and that'll be kind of you maybe not even thinking about it in terms of exercise at that age, right? You're just like, I want to go play these different sports or run into these different activities. Was there any other fitness outside of that for you
Not
during
not
that time?
not at first. When I was younger, it was just whatever the season, whatever the sport of the season was.
Yeah.
But my eighth grade summer, so between eighth grade and freshman year of high school, they opened up the gym at the high school for all incoming freshmen. So a buddy and me, our parents, we live 20 miles out of town. So 5 days a week, our parents would take turns, hauling us into town so we could go. We were I can't remember what it was called, but it was we were the Bulldogs. So we were like the Bulldog powerlifting club.
Nice.
So we would get to go use the gym all summer. And so prior to that, though, there wasn't really any fitness outside of, whatever sport I happened to be playing in. But yeah, once high school came, then discovered, the gym in addition to the sports. But I was always a husky kid. I was the big kid. I could hit the ball, but I wasn't one stealing bases or nothing. I wasn't real fast rounding third. I was a lineman. I wasn't, I was the big guy on every team. So
Gotcha. Nice. And then, okay, so then you said you ended up playing, I guess you focused more on baseball through high school, or were you still kind of getting a rotation of sports?
I mean, I kind of did them all, but once like high school came around, it was more, actually high school, I actually stayed more with football. Once I aged out of our little league, which was, I think, probably 15. So, I was doing that as opposed to school ball. But then I think football was probably the last organized sport that I did. And I ended up the first play of the first game of the season, I blew out my knee. So
oh no,
that was the start and the end right there.
Like that was a quick career, and then now so what was the next step? I mean, through the rest of high school, getting into college, where you obviously recover from the knee, right?
Yeah.
But then what the next chapter of life look like fitness wise?
It's amazing. At 16, that meniscus surgery, you spring back pretty quick. When you're 16, you're pretty resilient. So I finished out high school. I actually ended up dropping out.
Okay.
I was one of the oldest kids in my grade. So by the time I was like 18, 2 weeks into senior year. So I really quickly went from mom and dad's, rules to like, hey, I'm 18. I'm going to do what I want.
I'm a grown up. I'm an adult now.
I was like, no, I want to go. I wanted to work two jobs. I want to go out and make money. And so I ended up dropping out of school and chasing construction work and, making money. So I never even went to college. I never even went back and got my GED till like a decade later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was just like, all right, I'm ready to go get out in the world, start making some money, start working.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah. And was construction something you had always wanted to get into, or was that more of like at that time, hey, that's where I see myself getting in and getting moving quickly?
So I was always pretty mechanically inclined growing up. My dad, we bought a small house when they first moved to my hometown in 89. And then within a few years, we had outgrown that house. So my dad pulled some permits and built on a room addition. And a few years later, he did another room addition. So I was always exposed to the construction.
Yeah.
And then, when you're a high school dropout, you close some doors, not thinking about it at the time, but construction was always one that was still easy to get into. So right out of high school, I did some cell phone tower work. I went and actually did some traveling across the country, working cell phone towers. But then I ended up settling in Las Vegas, 2004. The city was booming. I think I showed up on a Friday afternoon, signed on as a carpenter's apprentice, and by Monday morning I was working on a job site on one of the biggest casinos in town. So that was
wow. Okay.
That was it.
Hell yeah. And then, the rest is history, so to speak. We'll break it
Pretty
down a
much.
little bit, but that's awesome. That's freaking cool. How did your physical background, like athletically growing up, playing sports, getting into activities, help you when you start working construction? Very physically demanding work.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that gave you a bit of a leg up? I mean, probably being younger. I mean, you're 18, so you're full of just, energy and piss and vinegar to some extent. But having that physical and athletic background, did that help you once you got into it?
It did and it didn't. So like when I came to town, I remember it was July of '04. So like my first week in town was the hottest week of the year. And I was coming off of, 6 months of traveling, doing the cell phone stuff with a bunch of guys my age. So the first thing we would do, any city we got to, fake IDs. And, so I was 6 months of just partying and drinking. So physically, I was a little overweight. That first week, I thought I made a mistake. I was like, I can't, I'm going to die out here. So, but eventually, yeah, I stuck with it. And then a lot of that baby fat or whatever, a lot of that weight came off real quick just from, carrying drywall and studs around all day in the middle of, July.
Was there a part of you having grown up in the valley that you were like, Vegas in the summer? I know what that feels like. I'll be fine. I grew up in that.
And they're pretty similar because my hometown, Kingman, Arizona, is 2 hours away. They pretty much are pretty similar climate.
Yeah.
But I still was not prepared for July outdoors, wearing jeans and boots and, 40 pounds worth of tools on my hips.
Jeez, yeah,
Yeah.
you're lugging, you're huffing it at that point. You're toughing it out.
And I was an
Man.
apprentice, so they just use you like, you're cheap labor.
Oh, so you're getting worn into the ground. Yeah, dang. So
All
then
day.
through that time, so you said this is that was like 04-ish.
Before.
Okay, how old are you around that time then?
Probably around 19, not old enough to buy a beer or anything, but because I'm born in '84, so I was probably 19 or 20, depending on when.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So then through that time, then you're in Vegas, and that's where you ended up settling down. I know that's where you live now, right? Um, through that stretch of time, was there ever a thought, or when did it start to become something apparent to you that you're like, oh man, like I might need to start getting back into a fitness routine or getting into some kind of a fitness routine? Was there anything through that stretch while you were working construction through the apprenticeship where you're like, oh boy, I'm going to need to put some focus on my health?
Hey, quick interruption from me. I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. If you are, I have a favor to ask of you. The main way that this thing can continue to spread is through word of mouth. So if you're enjoying this episode, send it to someone or share it with someone that may benefit from it or enjoy it as well. Leave a comment, drop a 5-star review, follow the show, share about it on social media. That's the main way that we can help get this message out to others so we can continue to spread this, okay? I'd really appreciate it if you do that. And now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, like you said, 18, you're living on a diet of Mountain Dew and McDonald's, and you're still thriving. Right away within those first few weeks, I had leaned out pretty good, but it's seasonal, right? In the wintertime, you're like a bear. You'd almost kind of just unintentionally pack on some fat for the winter. You're not moving as fast in the wintertime. So I would go through like these seasons of fitness where, I'd be up or down 30, 40 pounds, not even really intentionally, just kind of, my summer body versus my winter body. But yeah, over the years I had, I've gained and lost over 100 pounds multiple times in my adult life, but I can't remember what year, probably 07, 06, probably 06, 05, because it was before I had kids. I was at a concert with a buddy and I blacked out, and I woke up like in a stretcher with paramedics outside, and they're shining lights in my face. What drugs did you take? And I was like, I didn't. I swear, no drugs. And I had a couple beers and that was it. And so they ended up checking my blood sugar. My blood sugar was like in the 30s or something. And they're like, oh, dude, are you diabetic? I was like, no, I don't think so. So that was the first big, like, holy crap moment. Like, all right, I can't, this is not sustainable. I got to start getting some shape here.
And you said, okay, so you said there was a couple times where you kind of swung. Was that like, was that the start of one of those cycles, maybe where you were like, all right, I got to do something? Then you started, one of the weight loss bouts?
Probably. Like, I don't think it was the final one, but it was probably one of the first times that I really was, opened my eyes to it. If that was '05, I had my first kid in '07. So I think, anytime you become a father, you start thinking about longevity and, being there for your kids. And so I know that was another time in my life when I was probably a little more focused, trying to go to the gym, trying to, get back in shape. Because anytime your wife gets pregnant, it's inevitable you tend to put on a few pounds with her. The sympathy weight, it's a real thing. So she put on the weight, and so would I. So I think after that first kid was probably another wave of like, all right, let's buckle down. Let's start going to the gym. Let's get in shape.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what did that look like? Like the losing weight in those stages? Like what were you trying? What kind of workouts were you doing nutrition wise? Like what kind of things did you put in place to lose that big weight those first couple times?
So this is way before CrossFit was even on my radar. And we'll talk more about this, I'm sure, but I was the biggest like CrossFit hater for a long time. But so I was doing like your normal, your gym splits, your upper, lower, your push pull legs, your strong lifts or your starting strength, all those different programs. So I would go to one of the big gyms locally, which Las Vegas Athletic Club. It's a big chain of Vegas-based gyms. They're 24 hours. Pretty solid gym. So I've had a membership there probably for the last 15, 20 years. So it would have been going there, doing some kind of meal prep. I've went through phases of doing like keto and, I did Atkins. What Atkins was a low carb and all that. And I actually responded. Keto was I did pretty good on keto. Some of the times I had lost weight on keto is just long term. It's harder to sustain. Eventually you cave and you have those carbs and you're like, oh, I forgot how great these are.
You're like, these are amazing. Where can I find some more of them?
It's short-lived. The keto was always short-lived, but I would always get the results that I was looking for on that, high protein, low carb.
Yeah. And that makes sense. I mean, I still have a couple nutrition coaching clients and have, done it more in the past. And the more restrictive diets like that or diet programs like that, like you'll get a result for sure, right? Because that level of restriction, like it's going to induce a result. The likelihood that you're able to keep that result, that's where the questions really come into play, right? Because like you said, hey, keto will work if you follow it, but also carbs are kind of tasty. and it's hard to just stay away from that forever. You know what I mean? Like that's just it's really, really difficult to sustain it. Can some people do it? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Is that likely for most people? I lean towards no. But then again, but you will get the short-term result, especially for sticking to it. So that makes sense. That it sounds like, those things that's exactly how they work for you, right? It sounds like you were able to do it, get some results, and then it was like, ooh, but this is also really hard to this is going to be hard to maintain.
Yeah, to sustain it. It was always it's hard, it's what it is. But yeah, it's a short-term tool, I think, to kind of get where I wanted to go, but then from there it was, and that was the thing. I would always rebound. Eventually, if I lost 50, I'd gain 60. I would always kind of end up worse than I was in the first place once I did fall off the wagon and rebound.
How was that for you, like mentally, as you kind of would, as you'd have those cycles back and forth, right? Like just that example, lose 50, you gain 60. And then when you're at that point, when you gain 60, you're like what was going through your mind? Or you're like, holy crap, like what is going on here? Like, how was that for you as you were trying to process that cycle?
So it's kind of funny. Like I have this mentality, I'm like an all or nothing. So if I get a flat tire, I go and slash the other three. Like if I'm going to mess up, I'm going to mess up all in. So sometimes it would take a minute for me to finally hit that rock bottom in fitness to be like, okay, that was it. This is the worst I've ever felt. Time to start pushing the needle the other way.
Yeah. Gotcha. I love that analogy. I've used that one before too. I don't remember where I've heard it, but it's such a good one. And it's like man, that's that analogy of like getting a flat tire slash the other three. It's like, you wouldn't do that to your car.
Nope, not at all.
But it's amazing how we do that to ourselves, like in other aspects of life in certain cases. Maybe not intentionally thinking about it that way, but you just like one thing goes wrong and the snowball begins, right? So what was that then like for you? So you said you had that incident at the concert, right? Where you black out, kind of get woken up and you have the, crazy low blood sugar levels. But then you said, a couple years later you had another cycle, which was after your first kid was born, I'm assuming, right? So
Yeah,
like 07. Yeah.
yeah.
What was how did your let's see, how am I trying to ask this question? How was your perspective different approaching those weight loss bouts, considering the circumstances that led to starting those? I hope that question makes sense.
Yeah, I think once there's, once it gets to the point where like, it's okay, I'm not just doing this for me now. Now I've got kids that are, that depend on me. I need to be healthy so I can be there for my kids, so I can be a good example for my kids. I think there's a lot more motivation there when, a few years prior, it was just about, looking good at the gym. Now I had a real purpose. I'm a dad, I got kids. So that was usually I usually stuck to it a lot better post kids. Once I had kids, I was usually more successful with my, these waves of fitness.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and I think what you said at the start is like the biggest one that resonates, right? It's like you have a motivation outside of yourself, that you're doing it for, right? And some people some people don't need that, and that's okay, right? But for the people that have that, like I have two young kids, and I know that's a big factor for me too, right? Is like I want to be able to chase them around. Like they're 5 and 3, they're running constantly. It is, and I mean, if you had your first kid, they're a little bit older than that, but I'm sure you remember that stage of life.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just like, they're little waves of chaos all the time, and it's awesome. And I want to be able to run around with them and chase them around and keep up. It's kind of like a badge of honor whenever we're running around. They're like, "All right, we're tired. We want to sit down." I'm like, "That's right, you are," and I'm not.
Yeah, my oldest is 18, and then I've got a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old. So I've still got, the younger one, walking around trick-or-treating with him the other night. He's still young enough that it's okay for dad to tag along.
That's cool. That's
and even
awesome. That's awesome.
Next week is his final week of soccer practice. And the last soccer game of the season is always, or the last practice is always parents versus kids.
Oh, and nice.
Last season, I was in such bad shape that I was the one parent that didn't. I sat in my stupid folding chair watching, and it killed me. And I know that it bothered my son. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I was about probably 280 pounds, and I just was not. I could have gone out there and probably just stumbled around. None of us are going too hard. We all got to work the next day. All the adults and parents. But I was the only parent who didn't participate, and that was kind of even part of like what really motivated me to this last time to just get off my ass and get back at it.
Yeah, I mean, let's go to that because I think that's where CrossFit starts to come into your story too, right?
Kind of.
Well, I know you said that you were a hater for a while, so maybe we can go to like when did you first hear about CrossFit? If you were a hater, I'm sure you had heard about it before, and you were like, "I'm not putting words in your mouth," but you're probably looking.
Haters
like,
probably is
weird.
Haters probably a strong word, but I definitely wasn't. Wasn't a fan of it. I was. So I think one of the questions you had asked me was like when my first CrossFit workout. So that there's two answers to that question. So back in 2014. Me and my buddy had heard about the Spartan race, and there was a Spartan race coming to Las Vegas. And then there was also a Tough Mudder coming to Vegas. So we all kind of decided, hey, we should do this. We should all go do it as a team. And so I found a Groupon for these boot camp classes. They were hosted by one of the local CrossFit gyms. So it was CrossFit adjacent. It wasn't full, they would show up in a park with a truck full of, dumbbells and gear. And it was not full-blown CrossFit workouts, but like I said, CrossFit adjacent. So my very first day I showed up, I can't remember what we did, but then day 2 was like their monthly 5K. And I was not prepared to run. If I showed up in like the Vibram 5-finger toe shoes, because they were cool at the time, and I ran a 5K and almost died. I had shin splints for 2 weeks after that.
Yeah.
It was
Oh
brutal.
my gosh.
But so I did that with that outfit for about a year or so. I think I went pretty strong for a few months and then kind of started going less and less and less. And then after a year, I didn't renew. So that was kind of my first exposure or experience with CrossFit. And then for whatever reason, I went back to the gym after that and kind of went back to my old routines of just, push, pull legs, and, CrossFit. So I guess maybe I was a hater, and I don't even really know why, honestly.
So it was, but that judgment, we'll call it, maybe instead of hater, right? But that was based off like your own experience, right? It's not like you maybe mostly.
Well, the experience I had with like the boot camp stuff wasn't bad. I mean, I lost a ton of weight. I got in great shape. By the time those Spartan and Tough Mudder races came around, I was prepared. I'd trained up. I lost the weight. So they did what, I got what I wanted out of those classes. But again, I don't know where I got the distaste for like the real CrossFit. But that persisted for several years.
Yeah.
My sister and her husband both do CrossFit. My mom does CrossFit. And even in spite of all that, I was kind of like, yeah, well, you do your thing.
Yeah, like that's great for you. I love that for you. I'm going to stay over here doing my thing.
But, so early this year, I hit 280. The heavy, the heaviest I had been was 260, and then I'd lost 100 pounds. And then I got up to 270, lost 100. And then this last time around, I hit 280 in like the beginning of June. And that was right after my son's soccer had wrapped up, and I hit that 280. So I finally was like, you know what, I'm going to at least give this CrossFit another whirl. I went for the first day is free, come try it out, see if you like it. So June 25th, I went.
Nice.
It's like, you know what, I'm going to throw down I'm going to pay for a month. If I don't like it, I don't like it. I'll be out some money, but no big deal. So they didn't make you sign a year contract or anything. So, that 1 month commitment was I could handle that. So I signed up, and I've been I haven't, today will be my 85th CrossFit workout.
Oh yeah.
Since June 25th. So I've gone pretty consistent ever since I signed up.
Oh man, that is awesome. I got a question for you. Did you go to the same gym so you said your sister?
Oh,
they're
in Kingman, Arizona.
Oh, okay.
So their gym is in Kingman. There's 2 CrossFit gyms in Kingman now. So there's one like true CrossFit gym, and then there's a bigger wellness center that's also an affiliate. So my mom goes to the wellness center. She's the oldest person there doing CrossFit. She's 60. So just send me these pictures of her doing like handstand walks against the wall. I'm like, hell yeah, man, I gotta do something. I got nothing cool to show her.
Matt, did they like throughout, had they been trying to convince you to do it? Was it just like, hey, check out this cool thing we did? Like, I'm sure it came up, right?
It came up.
Was it more just conversational, like, oh, this workout, you would think this was so hard? Like, were they like trying to hard sell you on it, or were they more just sharing like what they were
never pushy? And I was always, I could, we're all on like Strava and Garmin together, so I would see their workouts, and I was always like, man, that's legit. That's an impressive workout. So I mean, I would acknowledge the level of skill that it took. I wasn't that much of a hater. Like, I'll acknowledge that it takes a certain degree of fitness to be able to do this. But yeah, and he's actually he's a level 1 or level 2. He's actually one of the instructors. So he's all in. And then their kids are younger than my youngest. So they go to like the kids CrossFit. So
nice.
Everybody does it. So I finally gave it a shot. But yeah, different gym, different city, different town.
Okay, cool. What was your first workout? Do you remember the very first one?
I went and pulled it up this morning. So it was nothing crazy. I've heard some people like their first time was like Murph or something. No, nothing insane like that. It was I wrote it down. It was hang cleans and double under. So there was a strength portion first where they were doing like seated dumbbell presses, and then it was hang cleans and double unders. But double unders are out of the – I still don't have double unders. But even then, 3 or 4 singles at a time before I would hit my shins and have to start over. Yeah. But the hang cleans were, you got to swallow your pride when you first walk into a CrossFit gym, because I'm 100 pounds heavier than any other dude in there. And I'm
Yeah.
holding not even an empty bar. I'm holding an empty PVC pipe. They're like, let's just have you do the. I'm like, man, can I at least do the bar? They're like, let's just do the pipe.
Like,
and I mean, I had to just swallow my ego and just play with that stupid PVC pipe for the class. But that's what it was. So yeah, it was hang cleans. And for me, it was, I think I probably used the bar for the actual workout itself, but all the practice and warming up was a PVC pipe, and then just single unders.
Dude, okay, so you've got you've got the ego component, which I'm not saying that's specific to you, but I feel like I don't know if it's guys mainly, but like you walk into a gym and they're like, all right, you're gonna hold this plastic tube, and that's the thing you're gonna move for a weightlifting component, right? And then you're throwing that thing around, you're tracking yourself with a jump rope, right? Basically whipping yourself in the legs every few jumps.
Yeah.
What about that experience where you like what did it feel like once the workout was done for you?
You know, there was no judgment. You know, it was funny when I first got there. I'm the kind of guy that I'm early for everything. So it's the 5:15 class, or the first class of the morning. I'm there at 5 o'clock. There's nobody there. There's only the coach. And it's a woman. I'm like, dude, if nobody else shows up, I'm putting it in reverse and I'm leaving. I'm not going to be the brand new guy, the only guy there. So luckily people started trickling in, but no, she was real cool. She walked up and introduced herself, asked me if I had any prior experience, any physical limitations, any injuries. You know, she scaled everything appropriately. And then even afterwards, you know, other people in the class were, you know, no pressure, but they were coming up saying hi, you know, saying, hey man, good job. You know, so it was cool. It was, you know, very welcoming group of people.
Oh yeah. What's the name of the gym?
This is CrossFit Apollo in Las Vegas.
CrossFit Apollo. Hell yeah. All right. Shout out CrossFit Apollo. Cause that sounds like for someone coming in their very first CrossFit class, like, you know, that sounds like a very welcoming experience, right? Especially showing up to the early morning warrior class, right? Like you've got the normal group that's showing up there. You got a new person walking in. It's like, all right, come on. It's like, you're good. You're one of us. You're a part of the crew. Right. What kept you coming back after that first class?
You know, I think I just, the fatigue, how tired I felt after. I wasn't dead, but I was like, you know what, this is a good feeling. You know, that high you get after you complete a workout, you know, you get that endorphin rush. It's like, I'm dead, but I feel great. So I was like, I want some more of that. So I don't think I even missed a workout for the first couple of weeks. I came like every day. Then they have like it took a minute for me to get on their mailing list, because every Sunday they send out the schedule for the following week. And I think it was almost better not being on, because now that I get that, I can see what's coming. And I think I skipped a workout or two because I was like, oh no, there's no way. I'm not. It was like, it was some crazy workout where there was like 100 burpees or something. And I was like, not doing it. So
burpees are good for the soul, man.
But now though, I like the schedule. So I know, okay, which shoes am I wearing for this workout? Am I going to be bringing my knee sleeves or not? Do I need tape? Are we doing a lot of snatches because I tear my thumbs up? Are we doing a bunch of bar muscle ups? Or because the last thing I want to do is tear my palms up. I see people look what I did. I'm like, that sucks. Now you're screwed for a week. Like, I don't want to tear my hands up. So I like knowing what I'm getting into. I can make sure that I have the right gear so that I'm getting the most out of the workout.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. It's so funny hearing people's different perspectives on that, right? Like even for myself, if I know what the workouts are ahead of time, I'm going to spend most of the week like breaking, because I'm a math nerd, right? So I'm like, oh, well, if I do this many reps and then I break it up this way and then I hold this pace, like I should be able to finish it. And it's like, there's no reason for me to be thinking about the workout that much, right? So as often as I can, I try to show up without knowing what it is. Like, unless I'm coaching, then I'm like, yeah, I probably need to look at it so I can have a plan going into it. But it is cool hearing those different perspectives of how people like to approach it. I totally get the equipment component too. So you're not like lugging everything there with you, right? So what was there a movement that you saw somebody do, like maybe in those early days, that you saw someone do it and you're like, holy crap, how'd they just do that? I think I kind of want to figure out how they did that.
Yeah, I mean, and there's movements that I already knew about too, like bar muscle ups. Like those are all. I don't have any of those movements yet. I understand the mechanics of it. I just haven't been able to string all the parts together. But even just some of the Olympic lifts, like I'll see people just effortlessly snatch what just a respectable amount of weight, and I'm just like, man, I want to do that. Like
Yeah.
it's not that it's intimidating. Like I just know that you don't just pick up a bar and all of a sudden they call them Olympic lifts for a reason, right? These are lifts that Olympians do. So, you got to just know that you're going to suck for a while. You're going to be doing a very, just the bar even. So some of those are the ones that I see and I'm like, oh man, I want to do that. That's what I want to be able to do.
Nice. Yeah. And with as consistent as you've been going to, I'm sure you've gotten a lot of practice with them. But yeah, those seem to be, if we ever have a new person walk in and it's a snatch day, I'm like, hey, by the way, what we're about to do here is like the most complicated barbell movement that we will do across any of your CrossFit experience. So like, if you've never touched a barbell before, like I don't expect you to be great at this right away. Like we'll find a way for you to do it safely and you'll learn some of the basics and then over time you'll progress, right? And then one day you'll come in, you'll hit a snatch and you'll be like, oh my gosh, that felt smooth. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell did I do?
Yeah, they have a bi-weekly every other Sunday. There's an actual just a barbell class. It's a 2 hour window. Go at your own pace. And I haven't. I've gone to every single one of them since I joined.
Nice.
And that's like the highlight of my every other week. I'm like, oh, this is barbell Sunday. Let's go. And we just moved location, so they've been at that they've been there since 2011. Like right after I joined the gym, I picked that gym because they were geographically the closest to my house. That was the first thing that got me in the door. Was just they're right down the street. It's convenient. And right after I joined, they're like, "Hey, we're moving." I'm like, "Oh man, that sucks." And now they're not even Vegas has a lot of CrossFit gyms. They're pretty dense as far as like the per capita or whatever. There's a lot of gyms around town. They're now third farthest away from me. There's two others that are closer.
Wow.
But I've gone long enough that I like this gym. I like these people that I'm willing to drive to that location. And really it just comes down to, my schedule in the mornings, dropping a kid off. I go to the gym. I come home, grab a kid, take a kid to school. Come home, grab another kid, take that kid to school. Come home, get dressed, go to work. They were very convenient when they were 1.5 miles away. Now they're 5 miles away. But in Vegas traffic, that extra 1.5 miles, 3 miles, whatever. If you hit every red light,
who knows how much time.
Make a big difference. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I believe it. How has thinking about that experience, right? The timing component, right? If it's like, hey, it's a 1 hour class compared to when you were working out on your own before you had gotten into CrossFit, right? How does the level of workout that you're able to get within that amount of time compared to what you were doing before? Like, how has that changed?
I think so. It's that 1 hour window has always been like in my head. You go to the gym, you work out for an hour, you get that. That's kind of always been that sweet spot. But I think a 1 hour session, casually strolling around the gym, waiting for somebody to get off the squat rack or whatever, versus an hour at a CrossFit gym, getting a lot more bang for your buck. I walk out of there at that hour feeling I'm spent, I'm depleted. Like, where I could walk out of the regular gym after an hour, and I could go for another hour because of the pace, the leisurely, and that's why that's the other thing about going to the gyms too. Unless you're going at 5 a.m., I went with my daughter a few months back. We decided to go at like 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
I don't even think we walked in the door. I think we just got back in the car and left because it was just, the gym was so crowded.
You can see it in the parking lot. You're just like, this is
I'm not doing this.
You're like, let's go to the CrossFit gym. We'll be all right. Nice. Awesome. And I know, okay. So you've been going now, you said June was when you started, right? So
about 4.5 months in.
4.5 months. Okay. You said you were right around 280 or you had just hit 280 before you joined. So now how's things going from that perspective, from a weight loss, body composition perspective for you now?
So I lost like 50 pounds within like 3.5 months. I'm down at about 230 right now.
Hell yeah.
And that's just from fitness and or activity level and laser focus on my calories. So, I'm at a deficit, eating a high amount of protein, and a reasonable amount of carbs and fat. So the carbs, I'm all in on carbs now. So, but I go for like 200 grams of protein a day. I don't always hit it, but if I'm even close to that 200, it's everything. Whatever I eat revolves around the protein. So that's the macro that I'm really tracking. And then wherever the fat and carbs land, it's just kind of, it is what it is. As long as I'm hitting my protein, that's kind of been my goal.
Nice. And do you feel like what you're doing now from a sustainability perspective? I know we talked about how previous kind of diet approaches you've taken, whether it was Atkins or keto or things like that. How does this approach of what you're doing now, how does it feel different if you had to picture, 6 months, 6 years down the road, in terms of what you think you could, continue to do with it?
This is sustainable, right? I'm not withholding anything. I'm not removing any one food completely. I'm eating some carbs. I'm eating fat. It's a well balanced plate that I'm eating. So I think that's sustainable. Now, a year down the road, when because I'm still trying to lose some more weight. So the only difference really will be eating at more of a maintenance target than at a deficit. Because when you're eating at a deficit, like, doesn't matter how good you're eating, how clean you're eating, you're not eating as much. You're not bringing in as much energy as your body's consuming. So you are operating at a deficit. You're not operating optimally. For me, it's a worthy trade-off. I'd rather operate suboptimally if the trade-off is that I'm slowly carving, some fat off and losing weight on the scale for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And no, what do you have, like a target that you're shooting for?
So I've been as low as 158, which was way too light. I was a little manorexic back in 2020, but 175 is kind of a good. I want to get under 200. I want to get into that wonderland, that 100 mark. But 175 seems like a reasonable target. I've been there before. Was pretty healthy when I was there before. I was doing a lot more running back. So when I got that light, I was running a lot. I was doing a lot of trail running, a lot of half marathons, training for, full marathons. But I ended up running too much, got some injuries. So I had to back off the mileage, and that's I haven't really ramped back into it ever since. But I had some plantar. I had some plantar issues in my heel.
Oh yeah.
And it completely sidelined me.
Dude,
but when I was running before the injury, I was at about 175 and I was lifting weights. So it was a pretty good kind of hybrid between running distance and lifting weights.
Nice. Yeah. Those plantar injuries, man, I've had it once and it was horrible. It was terrible. I remember, like, I'd be getting out of bed in the morning and I would just stand up and feel it like a shooting pain in my foot. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is horrific. Like, walking hurt and moving hurt.
It was, the worst.
Oh my goodness. So what is like, thinking about that target weight, right? And that kind of weight range, what does that mean to you in terms of things you're able to do, whether it's, certain movements in the gym that you're able to do easier or better, or even if you think about things outside the gym, like I'll just kind of pause the question there, right? Like, what does that mean to you in terms of what you're able to do? Sure.
Like right now at 230, I can probably, crank out a couple pull-ups. At 175, I'm probably going to be able to do several more. I'm going to be, there's movements in the gym that I'm going to be able to do at 175 or any amount lighter than my current weight. It's just going to be easier. I figure at that 175, whenever I do get there, in addition to losing weight, I'm also my lean mass is going to have increased. My strength will be increased. So I feel like a lot of those movements are going to be a lot more doable, a lot more achievable.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. Totally agreed. Right. I heard someone say this one time, that it's like, if you want to get better at pull-ups, like, one is get stronger, or two is lose 5 pounds. Right. It's like, if you have less mass to move, like, it's going to be easier to do more. So that makes sense. Right.
Simple math, easy.
Yeah. No spreadsheets needed for that one. Right. Have you thought about, you said your son, that soccer game experience, that was his last year of
that was
at that level?
2 seasons a year. So there's a spring and a fall season. So that was the end of this spring season, probably May, or ended in May, easy, right around the school ends.
Okay. Is he going to do the fall season?
So he's in the fall season, but he broke his foot a week ago.
Oh
So
no.
this kid, his last 2 fall seasons have been cut short by broken bones. He's a goalie, and
Oh.
he's a good goalie. He's like their number one goalie. And so last fall, game 3 or 4, he blocked a shot, dove in for a block, and he got kicked right in the wrist and broke his wrist. So he was out for the season. Last week, he was running at the pool with his buddy, because I've never said don't run at the pool. And he took a weird step and broke his foot. So he's in a boot now. So his season has ended. We're still, he's got 2 more games to go. And but yeah, so that's this week. We're still going to go do the parents versus kids, and I'm actually going to, I'm going to participate. Now he probably will too. He can block some shots in the goal without hurting his foot.
No, that's what I was kind of getting to. I wanted to see if you're looking forward to this that parents versus kids game this time around, because you had that experience the last time around that was kind of a little bit of the shock to the system, if you want to call it that, right? And this time around, you're like you're lean, mean, moving. You're like, are you looking forward to it? Are you geared up for it? Or are you just like,
definitely
excited? Yeah.
We hold back. It's still there's still 10 and 12-year-old kids, so we're only going like half speed, but we make them earn every shot. And but yeah, sitting there watching last game versus playing this time, I'm looking forward to it.
That's awesome. You got to look up on I think I've seen them on Instagram. I think they put them on like the ESPN or the Sports Center account. It's like it's a similar setup, but it's parents versus kids and like tackle football. And it's like 7 or 8-year-old kids, and they're doing the Oklahoma drill against their parents, and the kids are all padded up and the parents aren't, and the parents are just laying these kids out. It's so funny. It's so funny. But part of me is, hopefully you're not going to do that. It's soccer, right? Not football, but different kind of football. But I'm excited to hear how that goes. So I'll have to check in with you after that game, see how that goes for you.
Yeah.
So what I know the last time we were kind of messaging on Instagram, you said that you're also signed up for a couple of competitions with one of your daughters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Has she been doing CrossFit for a while too? Did she get into it with you? Like how did that come about?
So they would do like every other week on Thursdays. There's typically like a bring a friend day, and it's usually a partner WOD. So I talked her into coming a couple Thursdays, and so she came and kind of suffered through a couple workouts with me. And she's always gone to the gym. She's kind of like the same gym that I have always gone to. But she just graduated high school, and she's thinking about enlisting in the Air Force. So she's trying to spend her last few months here just going hard and go to the gym. So I told her, well, hey, if you like this CrossFit stuff, I'll pay half your membership if you show me you're serious about it, and because a CrossFit membership, we all know, is it's pricey. That's probably the biggest barrier to entry. Is just that it's a little more expensive than a normal gym. But so I told her, look, I'll pay for half your membership. So she's been going for about 2 months now, pretty consistently. So anytime there's a partner WOD, we'll tend to try to work out together, unless sometimes it just works out better where I team up with one of the guys and she'll jump in with some of the girls. But most of the time we'll go at it together. So yeah, so our gym, so CrossFit Apollo is having their annual Apollo games in January, and they've got an RX, a scaled, and then like even a beginner. So we signed up a beginner, but we already know even now we're probably better off doing at least the scaled, and even, that's still 2.5 months away. By then we'll be a lot more prepared for it. So yeah, we signed up for that one. And then another local gym has their like 12th annual Valentine's Day, massacre competition. So we signed up for that one as a co-ed father and daughter. And then on top of that, so I also, when I started doing the kettlebell stuff, or I started doing kettlebell about a month or 2 after I found CrossFit. So I not only do CrossFit, I'm also doing some kettlebell stuff, and I signed up for a couple kettlebell competitions. So I'm actually headed to Georgia in December and for a competition, and then I'll be doing one here in Vegas in February. So right now I've got 4 kind of lined up.
Dang. All right. Well, question about the kettlebell thing, because the only kettlebell competitions that I've seen, and this is just a total lack of me knowing, because it's probably not what you're, I don't know, maybe what I'm thinking of is not what you're doing, is those kettlebell juggling competitions. Have you seen those?
It's not the juggling. I've seen that too. I think there's a little bit of overlap there with like the juggling stuff and what I'm doing, but this is, you pick your event that so I'm going for single arm long cycle. So it's like a clean and jerk movement and then snatch.
Okay.
And then it's, there's rankings. Like I'm not going there to rank or anything. There's guys that are going to make rank. I'm just going to do my first competition so I was just going to do it virtually. Actually, the Georgia competition, my daughter flew up to Reno the other day to go see some friends, and her airfare was so cheap that it made me wonder, like, hey, how cheap could I fly to Georgia? And I found a round trip flight for $95. So,
oh wow!
So I just booked it, and quick little 24-hour turnaround. So I'm gonna fly there, do the competition, get some sleep, fly back, and
dude, that's awesome.
Just to do it in person.
That's so cool. Back to the competitions with your daughter.
Yeah.
And even going with her in some of those partner workouts, right? Or even if you guys are just going together to hit a class. From a dad perspective, what is that like for you?
Oh, it's
you and your
I love it. It's cool being able to like go do something like this with, for one, it's such when you realize you have an adult child, like you said, your kids are young still, so you got a ways to go, but that mental curveball when you're like, crap, I have a child who's now an adult. But to be able to go in there and do these workouts with her, and you got the two tallies on the whiteboard, that's it's cool. I dig it. So there's some work. We go a lot together, even if it's not a partner workout. So it's cool to just be able to look across the class and see her. And if I, like the other day, we were doing cleans and her form looked really good. So I love being able to like shout out across the room at my daughter, like, looking good, V. Her name is Violet. So looking good, V.
That's awesome. I'm sure I don't know. You tell me. I mean, I can imagine that there are probably some kids at that age that if their dad's yelling across the room, like it's embarrassing. But considering you guys are going together, I mean, maybe she's like, oh man, that's awesome. That's my dad.
Yeah,
that's my biggest fan.
I'm to embarrass you now.
She's right over there. Yeah.
Yeah. She went and worked out already. I'm going to go to the later class before I go to work. So she just got back from the gym.
Awesome. Yeah. Hopefully if she heard that question, she was like, no, don't worry. It's not embarrassing. You're fine. Oh, that's cool though, especially considering that, I mean, even if we roll the clock back on this conversation, right? You talked about how, having a kid, your wife was pregnant, you have a kid, that was like a big motivation for you. And that's your oldest, right? So that was the first one where you were like, all right, I got to get some stuff moving. I got to get some things going. So it's probably a really cool full circle moment for you as a dad to be like, okay, now one of the big reasons why I started on this journey is now like she's now coming with me and continuing this journey with me.
Yeah.
Like that sounds, just from the perspective of a dad, that sounds like nothing, like no cooler thing that could happen, right?
Yeah, I think it's funny. My mom came out for a soccer game a couple weeks ago, and I almost asked her ahead of time, like, hey, bring your gear. You can do a drop in. We can go do a 3-generation workout. Cool. But her back was kind of, she had tweaked her back, so she wasn't going to work anyways. But I thought it would have been cool to have grandma, me, and granddaughter all doing a workout at the gym that day. So that's got to happen one of these days, whether she comes up here or we go to her gym. I think somebody's going to have to do a drop in and do a big, 3-generation workout.
Dude, that would be amazing. That's so cool. Oh my gosh, I got chills thinking about that for you guys. Like that'd be such a cool opportunity to have that happen. Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. Are your other kids into it yet at all, or are they still on?
Not yet. I think not yet. I'm hoping they, my little guy, he does soccer. In my middle, she played soccer up until about 2 seasons ago, and now she's kind of talking like she wants to go back and play soccer. But she just hit high school this year. So when you hit high school, priorities shift, things change, So we'll see where she lands.
Nice. All right, cool. Well, hopefully you can get some more of the kiddos in there with you throwing down too, right? That'd be really cool. So, all right, awesome. Well, I have one more question for you, and kind of before we get there, first of all, thank you for sharing your story, sharing your background, and all that stuff. Right? It's really cool to hear how all of your background and upbringing kind of led you to where you are today, and how much of an impact, just even in the short window of time, that CrossFit has had on you, and hopefully melted away any of the the judgment that you had beforehand, even though, we kind of talked about how it's like, I don't know where that came from, but I just knew I kind of was a little bit off on it. So I'm glad that we were able to move past that and that it's helped you out so much. Right. So my last question for you, and you've listened to the episode, so you kind of have a sense of what I'm going to ask, right? But I'm going to roll the clock back to, let's pick out that moment where, you just had that incident at the concert, right? So you blacked out at the concert. You said you kind of come to, they check your blood sugar, and it's like, ooh, boy, that was kind of a bit of an awakening moment for you. And maybe in the couple days after that, right, you're kind of, I don't know, reflecting on that, thinking about like, oh crap, what do I got to do something, right? And in that moment, you hear about this thing called CrossFit, right? And you're like, ooh, that looks kind of funky. I don't know what's going on. Those look like some weird movements. And now after having 4 or 5 months of CrossFit experience, and you see all the benefit of it and everything that you've gained from it, you get a chance to go back to talk to that version of yourself in those couple days after that incident at the concert, and give him a few minutes of advice on why he should try CrossFit, why that might be something worth trying out at that point in his life. What are you telling that younger version of you?
Yeah. So ironically, that whole blood sugar incident, I'm not even a diabetic or anything. I think that they just caught me maybe I hadn't had any food and the only thing that was in me was booze, but that's unrelated. I think I would say, so I would tell, younger me that, like, what you think you know about CrossFit is you don't know. Everybody from the outside looking in, you're thinking of what you've seen on, like, CrossFit games. Millions of people participate in CrossFit. Only 60 guys and girls go to the cross. I Googled it. It's like 0.01% of CrossFit participants are actually CrossFit, games level athletes. So if that's the only thing you've ever seen that makes, if you think that's what CrossFit is, I mean, yes, to those 120 people it is, but to the rest of us, don't look at that and get intimidated and be like, oh, those guys are all sculpted. Those guys, I could never do that. Like, CrossFit meets you where you are, right? Like, last week we had a really cool workout where I can't remember. We were doing a certain amount of rowing. We were doing toes to bar and ground to overhead or shoulder to overhead, something like that. So, and I was kind of looking out across the class, and like, you got this one guy who's RX all the way, and he's just going to town. Then I'm, I can't do toes to bar, so I'm doing kind of a weird, knees as high as I can get them kind of thing. And then I look at another guy who's, scaling it even further than me. But at the end of that workout, all three of us, we've just all three gone like maximum effort. It's infinitely scalable. Anybody who's intimidated or thinks, oh, I can't do that. Like, even like my first day with this stupid PVC pipe, like, you can scale it, you can start anywhere, just let go of whatever preconceived notions you've got and just walk in the door and, check your ego at the door and give it a shot. Oh, yeah. I think that's what I would tell myself, back then.
Yeah. Whether you would listen to it back then, that's a no.
Yeah, maybe not.
No, that is such a great way to put it, right? That scaling component. And man, the point you made there about like the amount of people that make it to the games compared to the amount of people that engage in CrossFit. It's like, one, the likelihood, well, you pulled up the percentage, right? But it's like, for the vast majority of us, like, to even think about that as a goal is ridiculous, right? Like, one, the level of commitment and training that the games level athletes have is insane. Their schedules revolve around that, and power to them. It's incredible. It's amazing what they're capable of doing, right? For the vast majority of us, that's not something in the realm of possibility. It doesn't mean we can't strive to continue to get better and push ourselves and challenge our limitations, but it's like, that's not the goal for most of us, right? And that's where that scaling component comes in. It's like, yeah, go in, get a good workout, find like something that's maybe just outside of your comfort level and challenge that and see if that pushes you to be like, oh man, I didn't realize I was capable of doing, that version of the movement for that many reps. Oh crap. Now that's my new standard, right? And then I can keep building off of that. So that scalability piece is so critical, right?
Yep.
Awesome, man. Ryan, well, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate your story. I appreciate you being an early listener, like kind of like what we were talking about. This has been really cool to hear your story and hear how you got into it and how it's helped you. So any other parting words for the listeners?
No, I just thanks for having me on. Like that was what kind of drew me to your show, is that all the people that you interview are just they're people just like me. They're guys with jobs and mortgages and families and careers. These aren't games athletes that are sponsored and that their whole job is to work out. These are everyday people that are carving out the time to go to the gym. And I like listening to those podcasts and listening to Rich Froning and all those guys, but it is really cool to listen to these everyday athletes that aren't household names, that that's achievable. Hey, that guy's doing it. That guy has kids in soccer practice and he's got to work, but he's still got the time to hit the gym. So it's easier to identify with kind of your audience and the people that you're interviewing. So yeah, just thanks for having me on. It was really cool.
Absolutely, man. That's awesome to hear. I know we've messaged about it, but that's exactly who I'm trying to speak to, right? So if that's helping, then this is doing something right and it's going in the direction that I want it to go. Again, like I said before, qualifier, big qualifier, games athletes are incredible. They're amazing in their own way, right? But for the totally. like you said, for the everyday person that's got a mortgage and trying to juggle practices and work and like, oh crap, I'm going to sleep like 6 hours tonight because I'm stressed out about this thing. It's like those of us in that bucket, we all have so little in common with the games athletes. And so to hear people that still make the time to do it, dude, I'm grateful that it's having that kind of an impact, especially like you said on like on you and hopefully others that are hearing it too. I know it helps me a ton, right? To hear other people be like, oh yeah, this is how I figure this out. This is how I make it happen. This is how it's benefited me. I'm like, oh, I'm taking lessons away every time I get to talk to somebody. This is amazing. Right. So I'm appreciative that you've been a listener from the start. And now it's, cool full circle moment to have you on as a guest.
Awesome.
All right, man. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing with a friend. To get notified of future episodes, please follow the show on your favorite podcast app so you can continue to hear these stories. For more behind-the-scenes content of everyday CrossFitters, follow on YouTube and Instagram at Silverback Media. Until next time, this has been the Silverback Media Podcast.